Hello, everybody. Happy New Year. My name is Rebecca, and welcome back to my bookish travels. Today, I am so excited to bring you my wrap up. And before I jump into anything further in this video, I do want to let you guys know it is literally the evening of New Year's Day when I am filming this. And the only reason I'm letting you know is because I am currently wearing my onesie. My mom and I do a pajamas all day thing on New Year's Day, and I really enjoy it. This year we decided to wear our onesies. She was in her Eeyore, I was in my Minion. I love Minions, guys. I can't help it. It's just who I am. I got this a few years ago, and I was not going to get changed just for this video. I was like, I'm wearing my onesie. It's warm. I'm already in it. I've been in it all day. It's staying on. So before you guys start maybe asking questions in the comments below, being like, what are you wearing? This is what I'm wearing. So today I'm going to wrap up what I read in the month of December. And I know it's a new year and I should probably discuss, goals and whatnot first and foremost. I wanted to kind of go over this first because, wrap up the year. Why not? I kind of like wrapping stuff up. So today is a good day to kind of close it off and start fresh and things like that. The only thing I'm going to mention is I'm going to be doing my wrap-ups slightly differently than I normally do. And that is because I'm going to break them into the format that I read them in rather than going through in the order that I read the books in. I'm going to go through the order I read them in the formats I read them in instead. So starting off, let's discuss the audiobooks I read. The first one I read is The Stand-In. I gave this a 5 out of 5 stars, and I so loved the writing and the narration that was done on this audiobook. I loved it was set in Toronto. I read so few books where the setting takes place in Canada. I don't know if it's maybe just that I don't read where I live or if I just don't pick up books that are set in Canada. I don't know, but I definitely don't read enough that take place in Canada. It gave me so many fangirl vibes because the characters are all Asian, which I love. I love anything that has to do with Asian culture or anything like that. So there was definite plus there. It took place in Toronto, so there were a lot of sites that I have either seen or been to, and just in general, the story, I definitely knew where there were going to be certain things that took place, but in general, I just loved it so much. It made me so happy. Even now, I'm gushing. So if you guys haven't listened to this, I highly recommend it. And the physical written novel of this narration is going to be published next year. Also, the author just submitted her paperwork for her next novel. So excited. Next was Peak Performance, and I was not expecting what I got out of this. So I went into it and I'm like, okay, well, is this going to be like a knockoff of Atomic Habits, which is another one I wanted to listen to, and I didn't at this point in time. So I listened to Peak Performance, and guys, 5 out of 5 stars. So phenomenal. I got so much out of this. The book is basically how you can perform at your peak and different things that kind of contribute to that, how you can kind of evaluate it. And I bought the physical book after I listened to this. Before I even finished listening to it, I had bought the physical edition because it was so amazing. I feel like this is going to be a book that I read more because I feel like there's so much to gain out of it and you can't just grasp it all in that first listen. Next was The Case of the Left-Handed Lady. I gave this 5 out of 5 stars. This is the second book in the Enola Holmes series. I listened to it with my mom. Yes, I do have the physical books, but I got the first one for free on Audible as an editor's extra, and my mom and I listened to it. Love the narration, love the storytelling, love where this story is going, and absolutely amazing. I am loving it, and I'm loving the narration taking place. If you guys are looking for a fun read, 100% try Enola Holmes. Next was Canada, which was narrated by the author Mike Myers. I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. If you guys haven't listened or read this book, I really recommend getting the audiobook for it. There were certain things I didn't like, or I was like, did this really need to be in the book? But in general, having it read by Mike Myers, do I need to say more? It was read by Mike Myers. Next one I listened to was No Prince Charming. I gave this 4 out of 5 stars, and it's actually narrated by 2 different people, and I really enjoyed that aspect. I love when audiobooks are like, let's totally make this radio theater. Like, I totally get behind that 100%. Make it like as fancy as you want. I will listen to that and not complain. I really enjoyed it. I did find there were certain things that I was very frustrated over, and it's actually really good that the author could make me frustrated over it, but it's also stuff where I'm like, okay, the author's good because she can make me frustrated, but I don't want to be this frustrated while listening to this book. So I gave it 4 out of 5 stars for that. Definitely worth a listen. There's multiple books in the series. I don't know if it's just following the one brother or if it follows, each one as they go. All I know is that the first book is kind of a Cinderella retelling of sorts, and I was 100% behind it. Next one I listened to is Learn Dutch Level 1. I gave this one 2 out of 5 stars. I wasn't a big fan of the direction that they went in. I feel like half of the lessons were more just information sharing. And yes, that's good on one hand, but for somebody who has either been to the Netherlands or likes to read a lot of travel books or watch travel movies or TV series, it's not necessarily something that would have been very exciting for them, such as myself. So I definitely gave this 2 out of 5 stars. It was a bit of a disappointing read bit of a disappointing listen for me. And the final one I listened to was Atomic Habits, read by the author James Clear. And this one I gave 4 out of 5 stars. The only reason is I think that there was a lot of hype for this book. And because of how amazing peak performance, and I understand, do not judge a book based on another book, but with how amazing and helpful I found peak performance, I found that Atomic Habits had some lacking parts. So that is why I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I feel like it had a lot of information shared and really was encouraging you to jump into it. But I feel like there were so many other things that it didn't feel like it was as much from the author. It was like he'd pulled stuff from other people and put it into the book. And he's not taking credit for it, but he's the author of the book. So that's just my thought. I didn't end up reading anything on my ebook. Well, I didn't end up finishing anything on my Kindle. So I'm going to bypass that and move on to the paperback books that I read. I only have 3 to show in this category. I have New Every Morning Meditations on His Daily Grace. This is published by the Daily Grace Company. I found this was a really nice devotional. It really was something short, sweet. It didn't take too long, so on the mornings where maybe I'd slept in or maybe I wasn't gung-ho about doing a full Bible reading or kind of an in-depth time with God, I could kind of open this up. I could have that devotional, and it was actually really practical for a lot of stuff that I was going through or things that would happen throughout the day. So I feel like it was the right time to read it, and for that reason I am giving this 5 out of 5 stars. The next one was My First 150 Words in Korean. This is one I gave 3 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. I think that it's great because they not only had the Hangul writing, but they then had the English pronunciation and spelling for it, which I think helped because for somebody who is just starting to learn Korean, it definitely is breaking it down where I can pronounce it and I know how it should be said, and also making it perfect because they're all put into categories. Just a really great learning style. It worked for me, and it's probably one that I think if somebody said, what's the first book I should get that I should read in Korean? This one. Go with this one. highly recommend start with this one first before you go to something else. It was one that I could read through and I didn't feel like when I got to the end of it I was making mistakes or things like that. The final paperback that I read was S.A. Special A Volume 2 by Maki Minami, and I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. I love shoujo romance, and this is just all of it in one. I love it, and if you guys have not read shoujo manga or you haven't read shoujo romance in a very long time, you're missing out. Go back. Go and enjoy it. It doesn't matter what age you are. I feel like when you open up like an early 2000s shoujo romance, you're just like, yes, this is life. Life. Moving on to the final category, it's the hardcover books that I read during the month of December. To start off with, I ended up reading 5 of these Insight editions. They're like little mini hardcovers of books or like snippets from different stuff. These are the 5 that I read in December. And to start off with, I read A Thousand Suns Rising and I read A Journey of 1,000 Miles. Gave both of these 1 star. I just wasn't a fan of them. I'm sure that there's somebody else that would probably appreciate these more than I will, so I will just leave it at that. And then obviously the other 3 that I read are The Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, and Spider-Man, and I really enjoyed them. I gave them 3 out of 5 stars. These 2 were just kind of the story retellings of the films. So obviously things I knew. And then this one for Spider-Man is just quotes that Spider-Man has said. And the reason why I gave it 3 stars is there's a few where they do like a repeat of what he said from one comic to another. And I'm just like, could you have chosen a different one? Probably. Next one that I read was with my mom, and that was Return to the 100-Acre Wood. And this is by David Benedictus, and the decorations, as it says down here, decorations by Mark Burgess in the tradition of A.A. Milne and Ernest H. Shepard. I gave this one 4. Yeah, I gave this one 4 stars. I didn't love it. There were points where it did make me laugh and I did enjoy it, but I didn't love it as the original series of books. You could definitely tell that it didn't have the same kind of style. There were a lot of things that were quite different from how A.A. Milne had created the characters, and I just kind of struggled with that. I am glad that I have an edition that matches my other ones, but if you guys have read this, what's your thought on it? I wasn't 100% sold on it. I think that it probably is better to leave it where the author finished it than to try to have somebody else pick up where they don't actually know the direction the author would have wanted to go in. And that's my thought when it comes to this book. Next is How to Be a Pirate by Cressida Cowell. It's book 2 in the How to Train Your Dragon series. I give this 3 out of 5 stars. I felt like I was just rereading the first book, but the dragons were already there and we already know what happened in the first book, but it was like we were reliving it all over again, and I was like, am I just getting past this point for this middle grade series, or is it just that's kind of how the author wrote it and the next one's better? So I don't know. I'm on the fence if I'm going to continue this series or not. I just feel like there was a lot lacking, and I feel like we gained so much from where the first book ended that I was expecting we would continue on from there, but I feel like we took some steps back in this book. If you guys... Next is The Library of Unrequited Love by Sophie Devery. This was Sophie's debut novel, and it is translated, hold on, because I believe it was originally written in French. It's translated from the French by Sian Reynolds. I give this 1 star, guys. It is literally an entire novel monologued from the librarian to a stranger that slept in the library overnight. And it is her monologue about the actual like library, system, to how it kind of came about, to people she doesn't like coming into her library, to her unrequited love for somebody who does come into the library. And all of this monologue takes place because she doesn't want to call for security to let the person out, because she doesn't want to have to explain how they ended up in there. Also, the stranger does not say one word in this entire thing, and I don't know if this is supposed to frustrate me, but it did. No, it did not work for me at all. I would have been like, lady, if you do not call security, I'm gonna call them myself. Like, I'm done with this. I'm done. Like, no. Like, no. Next book that I read was The Loch Ness Punster by Kate Klice, illustrated by Sarah Klice. This is book 7 in the 43 Old Cemetery Road series. It was the final book. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. It was still really good, but it was lacking what the other books weren't. It's the only way I can describe it. Again, if you guys love having names that are kind of wordplay, this series is one you should definitely give a try. Absolutely love it. Very happy to have it on my shelf, and I'm glad that I did finish it, and I am sad it's over, but I'm happy. It's a very bittersweet book, but I gave it 4 out of 5 because there just were a few things lacking that I don't know. It didn't hit the heart and soul that it did, in previous books. Next two I'm going to discuss are the Christmas Eve books that my mom and I read. So just to kind of give a little backstory here, if you guys, a few years back, I started getting a book or two for Christmas Eve for my mom and I to read. Depending on if it was, previous years, it was Richard Paul Evans. And then this year last year we got children's books. And then this year I ended up seeing these ones, and I picked up these ones and we read them on Christmas Eve. So we have Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, the classic story, and Sounds Like Christmas by Robert Munsch. This obviously brought back so many memories because my childhood was watching that Christmas special. And then this one, we ended up laughing so much while we were reading it that I couldn't help but give both of them 5 out of 5 stars. If you guys haven't read these, I highly recommend. Pick them up. Just great, fun reads that are going to make you chuckle. At least this one. It's going to make you chuckle and laugh and be like, there's no way this would ever happen, but it would be hilarious if it did. The next one is Don't Push the Button, A Christmas Adventure by Bill Cotter, and I bought this for Christmas for my niece, so it's one of her books to keep here at the house, and my niece loves the Don't Push the Button books. I also find them very soothing. Also, her laughter is just hilarious whenever you say, don't push the button, and she goes to push it. So I gave this one 3 out of 5 stars because I get so much enjoyment reading them with my niece. All right, and the final book that I read in the year of 2021, this literally was the final book I finished. It is The Girl Before by J.P. Delaney. This is actually the UK edition. I bought it quite a few years ago and I just got around to reading it. The writing is really good with this, really, really good. It's a slower paced novel, although I will tell you that my mom and I read through it really fast. My throat was so sore reading it because we'd read through 100 plus pages at a time and then be like, no, we have to stop. We have to go to bed. This one was really good. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. It is an adult novel. It's a psychological thriller. This one was interesting because it takes place in a house made by a minimalist. And basically, you're not really allowed to bring anything of your own in. What's already at the house stays. And it's about the girl then named Emma. Shadow. Do you guys see what I'm having to work with? Hold on. Say hello, Shadow. Say hello, Shadow. Goodbye, Shadow. Oh my goodness. It's about the girl then named Emma and the girl now named Jane, and just so well written. Again, it is a psychological thriller, and there were some surprising things that took place in this book. I'm excited because I've done it. It did take me a while to read it because of the fact that it's been on my shelf for a while, for a few years, but I'm so glad that I did. I really much prefer this UK edition to the North American edition, in case you guys have looked at either of those. And I didn't realize until I started reading this, but HBO created a little mini series based on this book. And I don't have HBO to be able to watch it, but I'm debating on getting it because I kind of am interested to see how they take this with the writing and then put it into a drama. And will it have the same kind of creep factor that this did? But yeah, if you guys have read The Girl before, what were your thoughts? Did you like it? Did you hate it? What do you think? Is my wrap up for December. As I said, I read quite a few more books than I thought that I would, and I really enjoyed it. It was definitely fun to see that I read a lot more that I did like than I didn't in the month of December. So that was good to see. And I do have a couple of books in my wrap up of ones that are going to go in my bag to get rid of. I'm sure that they will find a new home with someone who is going to love them more than I will. Although they did spend some time being loved on my shelf, it is time for me to sadly say goodbye to them. I hope you guys have enjoyed this, and again, I hope you all had a fantastic start to the new year. Happy New Year. I hope you stay safe and stay well, and I will see you in my next video. Until then, bye!